Welcome to the Tampa Bay IIBA chapter. This is July 17th, 2025. This is our 173rd class. I'm really excited to have AlanAustin here. He's going to be talking about the critical step in data validation. My name is Thea Soren. I am the president of this chapter. In fact, this week I celebrate my 1 year as president. With nearly 30 years of experience in business analysis, I've spent almost half that time leading various IIBA chapters. I was fortunate enough to be one of the contributors to the Business Analysis Body of Knowledge 3.0, and we are so close to publishing the second in the series, Business Analysis Bridging the Gap Across Industries, which will be a guide for business analysts wanting real case studies and entering new industries. Welcome to the IIBA. If you don't know us, for newcomers to the IIBA, the International Institute of Business Analysis serves as the global governing authority for business analysts, with approximately 30,000 members, 22 chapters around the globe, with Argentina and Denmark joining in the last month, and we offer 7 different certifications. What are the benefits of joining the IIBA? Access to training provided by chapters around the world. Complimentary access to 11,000 outstanding books, including the IIBA's BABOK, along with webinars and additional resources. Networking opportunities available in various formats, and discounts on your certification exams. The IIBA has chapters around the world and in most major cities. If there isn't an active chapter near you, if you want to start an active chapter, we can talk. Or you are welcome to the Tampa Bay IIBA. Members of the Tampa Bay, Florida chapter aren't restricted to residents of Florida. In fact, our members hail from all around the globe. If you don't have a chapter near you, Tampa Bay can be your chapter. I told you that the IIBA has 122 chapters worldwide. This is the Tampa Bay IIBA chapter, and this is our board. These are the folks that work behind the scenes for your benefit, and we do appreciate them working so diligently to keep us all going. We welcome Sarita Dugal to our board. She's already engaged in helping plan events throughout the end of the year. In fact, this month is also our 17th anniversary as a chapter, so hooray. Our vision here at the Tampa Bay IIBA is building a thriving community of empowered business analysts. Why would you choose to join the Tampa Bay IIBA chapter? We offer multiple training sessions each week, including a CBAP prep, coaching, and we built a relationship with an impressive number of beneficial partners, all to benefit you, our participant. You can see our upcoming events at our website and the updates posted across LinkedIn and Facebook. And by the end of this year, we'll have put on over 200 events. You can access our events on YouTube, and you can get the index of all of those recordings here at Bob's Amazing Index at rpchurchill.com. Thanks to Bob Churchill. As we come up to the end of the year for our awards session, we're letting our parent organization know what we have been doing over the last years. These aren't final numbers, and they're only going to go up from here. Between August 1st of last year and July 31st of this year, we've held over 114 events. We have members that have been joining us like crazy, and we have 75 certification holders. I am so excited about this. We also want to pause a moment to recognize our new members. These are members that have joined in the last year, and Christina at the bottom has renewed her membership. Thank you very much. Students of all of these classes that we've been putting on, these students have reached out to tell us that our training was a big part of their success in achieving certification. Of the 21, 11 have gone on to either lead chapters around the world or volunteer for chapters around the world, further demonstrating that they value what they've received from our chapter. We do have a new member, a new certificate holder. This is Amal. You can see his name right here. And we are excited about him. He's a member of our current CBAP class, and he went ahead and took the CBAP certification, and he passed it. It's notes like this, though, that tell our board, our volunteers, that they're making a difference. This is our fuel. If we've helped you in any way, let us know. Either drop us a line, put it on LinkedIn and tag us or something, but let us know. It's important. We also know from the IIBA study that went out at the end of last year that business analysts entering the job market do earn a higher than average salary. We're looking for students who want to graduate college and differentiate themselves from all others in their graduating class. Student members receive full access to all of the IIBA resources, including the Babok Guide, webinars, member pricing for certifications, and more, just like professional members. And the fee to join as a full-time student is substantially reduced. We want to help you, so reach out. In working to enlarge the education of our community, we've partnered with several organizations in getting solid teaching as well as bleeding edge information to you. But our number one partner in this group is you, the IIBA partners, and those who participate in our chapter. We are also partnered with over a dozen other IIBA chapters worldwide, 2 chapters that are just forming. Reach out to me if you need connections with any chapter. We've partnered with other organizations. The DOBAC group is based in the UK, and these other 4 are in the Tampa Bay area. Our goal, as always, is to elevate our BA community. We partnered with recruiting services and training companies for your benefit, and the result of that is they give members benefits. Apex Systems regularly offers free courses that cover a wide variety of useful topics. These are some that are coming up. This is coming up on the 22nd of this month. You can go to their website and choose webinars and workshops. Next month, the Bluegrass chapter is going to be teaching the product ownership analysis study group. So if you wanted to get your CPOA, that would be the way to do it. The skills development group also has a lot of resources out there just for you, and it's all free. They have stuff you could pay for too. Estrevo is our newest partner. They have these classes coming up. We're going to put them on our calendar. You can register through our website whenever we get a little closer to that. Systems thinking is really, really a big buzzword. And so if you're looking for a job, I would encourage you to at least look at systems thinking. Design thinking would be the next step after that. A benefit to our participants is you get discounts. If you want to get access to the Watermark 1200 question study bank, you can use the Tampa 21 discount code and get 40% off. Adaptive US also gives discounts on all of their live classes and on-demand courses, excluding the IIBA exam vouchers, at 20% off with this discount. They also offer they will pay for if you don't pass it the first time. So it's pretty impressive. Okay, IIBA news that you need to know. If you're working to earn your ECBA, the Entry Certification in Business Analysis, it will get a bit harder as of July 22nd, which is next week. I encourage you to go ahead and take it this week if you can. It's not going to be a whole lot harder, but a little bit is a little bit, right? Also, if you've taken the ECBA in the past, until July 20th, you can take it free. You can retake it free. And then Global Business Analysis Day is coming up. And I think the date is actually October 31st and November 1st. Okay, we know that there are jobs out there. Y'all tell us, we're getting ready to hire for this. Let us know what you're hiring for, and we will get you the people that are qualified. We know who's qualified, so let us be the BA matchmaker. On LinkedIn, we wanted to do something tangible to help our community find jobs. So I created this open group on LinkedIn. I try to post dozens of jobs here daily, and I've got 16,000 connections. So whenever I see the job posts that say, we're hiring for this, I drop it in there. If it's in the United States and it's open, I drop it in there. Tonight, AlanAustin brings us the critical step of data validation and explains why it's critical for every single company and business analyst to understand. Next week, Brianna is going to bring us successful navigation from BA to business architecture. Brianna is a frequent speaker using her extensive experience as a business analyst who's worked her way into business architecture. If you're curious about business architecture, this talk is for you. The week after that, You know Bob Churchill from his years of dedication to the Tampa Bay IIBA. He's been participating and contributing since I joined in 2021, and he's providing us constant source of value with his website, rpchurchill.com. The index of our Tampa Bay videos is on his website because he keeps it updated. So in preparation for our 11-week SDLC event on July 31st, we have Bob Churchill bringing us the SDLC and Babcock Map to a Simulationist Framework for Business Analysts. This is a result of his decades of experience and study of business analysis. So join us for this. Then we start something very special. On August 7th, we begin the first ever SDLC simulation with the IIBA. This is designed for emerging professionals, students, and professionals, as well as career changers who want to break into tech and business analysis roles with real experience. In this program, you'll step into roles like business analyst, product manager, project manager, developer, and more. You'll collaborate with using real-time tools, using Mural, Visio, and more. You're going to build your network, and there will be awards. So registration opens actually today. In this, week 1 is going to be kickoff with SDLC overview. Week 2 is a requirement solicitation. Your team is actually going to go through these steps. Week 3 is requirements analysis and modeling. 4 is backlog grooming and prioritization. 5 is design architecture. We're going to have mentors to help you through each one of these. 6 is development and prototyping. We've got developers that are going to come on board and help with this. Then QA strategy and early testing, backlog grooming and prioritization, UAT and feedback, deployment and launch prep. And then we're going to have you show what you made to the whole group. You're going to come from your teams and show it to the whole group. And you're going to talk about your lessons learned. And then we have awards. So without further ado, now for our presentation. Alan, it's on you now.
Uh-oh. Did we lose Alan?
I see him. But Alan, you are on mute, sir.
Okay, can you hear me now?
We can hear you now. Excellent.
Okay, fantastic. So, good evening. My name is Alan, and I'd like to thank you for taking some time out of your evening to attend this presentation on data validation.
Okay, we can't see your screen yet, though.
You can. I shared it.
Do it again. I'm going to blame it on Teams or Zoom or something like that.
Okay. Let me see if I can back out of this. Because this was working just fine when we did it before. Okay, I'm going to do a share again.
Okay, it's coming up, and now we can see
There we go.
You're good?
Yes, we can see your screen.
Okay. So, let me just, I'm sorry, now my notes vanished.
It's okay.
It's, okay, give me a second. There we go.
Now we're
Okay.
ready.
Okay. So, once again, I'd like to thank you for taking some time out of your evening to attend this presentation on data validation. Before we discuss data validation, however, I want to take this opportunity to wish all the best to those of you who will be taking the CBAP certification exam in the near future. Having just earned my CBAP in June, I appreciate and respect the ambition, perseverance, and dedication that you bring to this effort and to our profession. So moving on to data validation. We're going to unpack why data validation is essential, and show what happens when it's ignored with real-life examples. So a little bit of personal background. Again, I'm AlanAustin. I'm a business analyst and a data migration specialist with about 20 years of technical data migration and data validation lead responsibilities on 7 Oracle projects and numerous commercial clients. At the end of 2023, I also published a course on Udemy under the name of Extreme Performance PL SQL Data Validation and Cleansing Package. And as I said, I just earned my CBAP last month. So what is data validation? Think of data validation as quality control for information, making sure that data is accurate, complete, and fits its purpose. For starters, accuracy is an absolute must. If possible, enforce this accuracy by using a list of values in whatever fields you're dealing with. Also critical is correct format for dates, phone numbers, zip codes, etc. Mandatory data. If this data is missing, the record is very likely to fail import. And then we have business rules. One example being, do not import records that are more than 2 years old. These business rules are often very critical and must be observed. And last, appropriate. If the field name is type of car, then I would not expect to see your grandma's name popping up in there. So why this matters? Good deeds and good data lead to trust. Bad data leads to bad decisions. Think of how many systems rely on information that could be flawed. Lack of compliance can lead to penalties and loss of profits. So without it, bad data obviously leads to lack of trust, leads to bad decisions, leads to rejected records during the import process. Lack of compliance can lead to penalties and loss of profits, and take strong note of this. Any one of these could possibly blemish your reputation. So where does problem data come up? As you can see on the screen, I'm not going to read all that to you, but the first one, older legacy systems, often with very little data entry control. Current or custom systems that allow for manual operations is another issue. Any system not using a list of values or field enforcement. Systems with inadequate or non-existent business rules, obviously a problem. And for example, as I said before, legacy data that is not to be processed or imported if older than a specified date. And let's not forget human error. To state the obvious, any of the above can result in substandard data, which can impact reporting and decision-making while causing misalignment or failure of stakeholder goals. So, data validation in BABAC. So what is BABAC? If any non-BAs have sneaked into the audience, BABAC is the business analyst body of knowledge, which is the supreme user manual guide for business analysts. Now, while BABAC does not specifically mention data validation as a standalone task, it does emphasize the need to verify the accuracy of information used or produced by a solution. It also emphasizes the fact that the solution outputs should meet stakeholder expectations and regulatory requirements. So what have we got here? This is basically an overview of how data validation encompasses all 4 of the major BABOK areas. Now, I know there are 6, but 4 are particularly concerned with data validation. So if we start with data source at the top, that data will move through these various knowledge areas: elicitation, requirements analysis and design, lifecycle management, solution evaluation. And all of the records that pass through here should be subject to a PL/SQL or other programmed data validation package. If the package is done correctly, any errors found will go to an error log table. And if there are errors, we are going to see a summary and a detailed error report. This information basically comes back up to the beginning of the process, where the user will remediate it and resubmit it. Now, if the remediation is done correctly, we're going to get to the point where there are no errors, and the validated data can then go to data migration or to an internal process modification that we have just made. Now, at the end of this, your resulting data should satisfy the tasks that are listed on the lower right here, which are the same as the knowledge areas shown above. So let's get down to something real: stories of success and failure. And we'll start with validation errors. Okay, voter roll inaccuracies. One state had 300,000 incorrect addresses. As a result, people showed up to vote only to be turned away. COVID. Excuse me, let me just get rid of that. Okay. With no validation or patient IDs, thousands of test results became delayed and caused very risky health decisions. Payroll zeros, one of my favorites. A large company's payroll system let negative salaries through. Now, I have absolutely no idea how they managed to do this. If I do a program, I sure as hell test it and make sure it isn't going to do something like that, but these things do happen. So anyway, you got some very unhappy employees who saw $0 going into their accounts. Duplicate leads. Missing uniqueness checks led to repeated targeting of the same potential leads, and the marketing budget as a result took a direct hit. Hospital medication error. A nurse caught the dosage error, but just barely. An input error in the medication dosage managed to pass through with no validation. Duplicates. Customers in this case were double billed due to improper logic. The result: refunds, apologies, loss of trust, and not to mention the cost of the extra time involved to fix up the entire mess. So here we have a bit of a mismatch between systems causing false acceptances. 3,000 in this particular case. Embarrassing headlines indeed followed. Banking system import failure. The legacy system in this case failed due to a date format confusion. And you're going to find that date formats and other formats are really critical in the import process. And hey, by the way, the cleanup took some very expensive weeks to accomplish. Sales dashboard misses states. What does that mean? Well, it means here that zip codes with invalid formats were silently ignored by the processing system. So because of this, sales reports missed entire regions. Key takeaways from failures. You want to emphasize prevention. And prevention of these errors is going to lead to trust, and it's going to lead to reduced cost. Strong validation prevents any of these painful situations before the damage is actually done. Now, how about stuff that actually worked? Here's a situation where the airline validated IDs and addresses. This reduced fake accounts and increased conversion and made for happier customers. Duplicates of any kind in your system can cause all sorts of grief. In this particular instance, 120,000 duplicates were successfully located and removed. Validation ensured in this case that all claims were coded correctly before submission, saving time, money, and reducing complaints. In this case, as you can see, the rejections were cut by 40%. Now, our very own certification portal, even our CBAP app portal applies validation, like verifying hours and role types to ensure that they adhere to BABOK standards. These are some major types of validation. This is not all encompassing, but they're certainly major. And note that you can validate absolutely anything from phone formats to simple business rules or even complex business rules, depending on how much time and effort you can put into it. Here's a simple validation. Make sure that phone numbers follow this format. No guesswork. Correct formatting, as I said before, will also apply to dates, zip codes, and possibly other types of data. The wrong format can cause rejection by the import process. So, I'm sorry, I don't know how that happened. The validation process is an iterative development process, not one and done. So starting at the beginning on the left, review and determine what data sets are to be migrated and the priority in which they're migrated because there are dependencies. Verify data compliance by using migration templates. Now, not all systems do that, but particularly in the Oracle world, this is a big thing, including the Oracle Cloud. Research to determine what validations currently exist. You're going to get, you may get some in your data validation tool, whatever that tool may be. You'll probably get a bunch of them in the data import process. Don't reinvent those. Your job is to research to determine what additional errors could pop up and need to be validated. These have to be developed, tested, and executed, basically being added to validation scripts. And the scripts will generate data validation error reports. Now, if everything went well, the reports will be clean and this section of your work is done. If you've got errors, you basically have to circle around and rectify the problems, resubmit them, and hopefully they'll be fine the second time through. Now, one of the things you might come across is that there are new errors that were not contemplated. So any validations for those have to be added to the scripts. Now, let's emphasize this. Initially, this will all be done in a sandbox or development instance. Once you get past that, into UAT and other interim instances, you run through the same validation process. Hopefully this time around, you'll only have a small fraction of the errors that you had before, and they might be new errors. And then again, the same thing applies to the production instance. So who's involved in this? You can see, I'm not going to read what's on the screen, but be aware that it's a team sport. The BAs define the rules. Developers build them in. SMEs confirm their relevance, and testers verify the results. So let's take a look in a little more detail at some of the tools, lessons learned, and draw some conclusions. So let's revisit BABOK. Pardon me. Earlier, we noted there were 8 BABOK tasks that directly relate to data validation. The most important ones are listed on the screen. And remember how this all ties back to BABOK. Define what clean data looks like. Assess the value. Enforce data requirements. Update rules on an ongoing basis as necessary. Common tools. You can validate using any of these. Don't overthink it. Sometimes it's not that complicated. Validation can be done in SQL, Excel, or a more high-end tool such as Talend. Again, do not reinvent the wheel. All the import processes have some validations built in. Be aware of what those are, and you should focus on those that do not already exist. So let's take a look at some real-world considerations. This is going to definitely add to your workload. And the reason is that an effective set of validations involves specific validations for each type of data. For example, PO headers would be validated differently from PO lines, and the same with PO distributions. Each type of data is going to have differing requirements, such as the type of error, the table names, the column names, record identifiers. And of course, the logic for these errors is going to vary as the errors vary. Now, resource competition. Developers will be required, since coding will almost always be out of scope for a BA. The development team will have competing priorities. Considerations will be stakeholder requirements, especially those with a lot of influence, the budget, available resources, time constraints. Testing and review of results, including possible modification of validations that did not perform as expected. And if that's the case, then obviously retest them before applying them to real data again. Okay, in this case, I am repeating myself a bit here because this is important. Your validation tool and the import process may reduce your workload by applying built-in validations. Take full advantage of this feature. In most cases, documentation will list the errors validated. And test to make sure that these existing validations actually work. It's not always the case. Your BA job is to develop the critical data validations that are not included in the validation tool or the import process. Now, note, in the real world, you're never going to have the budget or the resources to validate all possible errors. It ain't going to happen. So some of the challenges, I'm sure you've all been exposed to these. Uh, I'm not going to read them. They're right there. But yes, it takes time, especially with old data or complex logic. Skipping any of these steps in the process only delays the pain and will probably allow garbage data to be imported if it slips through the already included validations. So prioritization. When time is tight, which it usually is, validate these classes of data first. They are what affects trust and outcomes first. Testing and retesting. Now, there's a lot of information here. You can see what's on the screen. I'll make a few comments on this. Records process must agree to the record count in the data file. If the data includes numeric data, then the total process must equal the total in the data file. Your error log should show no system errors, ideally. Displayed data should agree in nature with the column name. As I said before, you don't want to see your grandma's name in a column that refers to automobiles. Defaults. Ensure that column defaults exist and are correct where appropriate. And this is going to come up a lot if you are importing data from a legacy system into a new ERP system, for example. The legacy system probably is not going to have some of the columns that you're looking for, which is why you have to supply the defaults. Mandatory columns have to be populated. Null data columns should not be populated. And if you've got a null data column, the question is it actually being used? And if it's not, then you don't have to import it. Check for correct formats, especially dates and phone numbers. Reprocess the remediated data. Every situation is going to be unique, so be open to any other testing that is appropriate. The process. Bear in mind, the overall process is validate, test, fix, retest. Rinse and repeat until totally error-free. So now we're going to talk about performance, and since BAs are quite often more oriented towards functionality than technical material, let's talk about why. The first two considerations that are going to affect performance are pretty obvious. Complexity has to do with poorly designed or executed SQL. When you talk to your developers, ensure that your coding instructions are absolutely explicit and unambiguous. If the program is badly designed, you're going to have inserts, updates, and deletes, which are going to hurt your performance. Most of the coding should take place in memory. And the last three on the screen are pretty obvious. I'm not going to go over them again, but ensure that your developers are focused on all of these performance issues. If the performance is not acceptable, you're going to hear about it from a very unhappy client. So you've validated all known data. The question is, what have you missed? This video depicts data flows from sources to targets with some data detail. Now, this is a real-life scenario, which I'm going to describe, and it took place on one of my first major projects. So that's when I was in heavy learning mode. The squares represent what are going to be ongoing interfaces, while the circles signify one-time data conversions for systems that will be retired. Now, on my first project as data migration lead and BA, I created a similar Visio, but with 55 data flows, not just the 8 displayed here. They were inbound, they were outbound, they were all over the place because the client in this case had custom-made legacy systems that were not about to be retired. And then there were some which we did manage to retire. The point of putting this together was to more fully engage members of the team who thought that their normal jobs were far more important than the current Oracle implementation. And believe me, that's a fairly common attitude among long-term employees. The client had an HP plotter, and I made use of it to produce 6-foot by 3-foot Visios using more vibrant colors than you see here. I wouldn't say they were in good taste, but the point was to grab attention. Then I hung this in a very central location in order to spread information and develop interest. It accomplished these goals and a lot more. From day one, most of the functional and technical specialists started to make copious notes on almost every data flow regarding missing data, existing business rules that were not noted, business rules that should have existed but did not, and even a few additional data flows that I had missed. So with 55 inbound and outbound flows, it was not a small effort. But why all the notes on the Visio? Because the source documentation was seriously flawed or absent. So every evening, I updated the pertinent documentation, reprinted the Visio, including all the new notes, and hung it up for the next day. And hey, by the way, this continued for weeks. So with all this discussion, what's the point? There are 2 major lessons learned. Data validation includes validation of existing data and the capture of missing data. And it could be critical missing data, and in that case, it could turn around and bite you later. And also, I discovered a great way to engage less than enthusiastic stakeholders. So if your client has an HP plotter, you want to make full use of it. So clean data builds trust. Can't say that in big enough font. Good data fuels smart decisions, compliance, and confidence, and bad data can undo it all. So, in conclusion, BABOK does not specifically refer to data validation, but accurate, reliable, and consistent data is integral to the success and value of the solution. It minimizes errors while aligning results with stakeholder expectations and delivering accurate and trusted outputs. I'd like to thank you all for joining and for your time and attention this evening. As a takeaway, think about where you could apply better data validation to whatever it is that you're working on. My contact information is here. I'll be happy to take any questions. And if other questions, feedback, or comments occur to you later, my contact information is AlanAustin, one word, .ba.dialogue@gmail. And please use Tampa Bay Data Validation as the heading, as the subject. I promise I'll respond to all emails received, whether they're nice or not nice. And believe me, I appreciate your interest. So I'm ready for your questions and enjoy the rest of your evening.
Well, Alan, first of all, thank you so much. This is delightful. Olga, you had the first question. Would you like to ask?
Yeah, yes, thank you. So I was just curious how validation, logic validation rule differs from dependency validation rule. Can you give some examples?
Dependency validation rules, well, like for example, let's take a very top-heavy, high-end one. If you're going to run a GL module, a general ledger module, you're going to have journal entries, and they are specifically dependent, among other things, on a valid chart of accounts. So I guess you could say that at a high level, a requirement would be that you have to have a valid, well thought out chart of accounts to accommodate your operations. Now, a lot of the time, these validations become far more specific. Some of the records that I had referred to, if you're missing an ID, if a customer name is missing when it should be there, very specific things like that, those are validation rules also. So validation can be at the highest level and go right down into the weeds. As an example, Olga, I was on a project back in 2019 with an organization that was operating in more than 60 countries. Some of the countries that were not as sophisticated, such as Africa, submitted manual purchase orders, and they were basically put together on Excel spreadsheets. Well, after taking a look at these and taking a look at the data was horrible. And I went
I
into
can imagine, yeah.
Well, I went into SQL Server, and after looking at the data, I created a package that had more than 50 specific validations. And the first time around, almost all of them popped up in the error log. So the error, in this case, the package generated a summary report and a detailed record by record report. This was sent back to the source of the data. They eventually remediated everything, sent it back, and we managed to get it through cleanly, and it imported. So you can get some pretty severe situations.
What about logic validation rule? So
Well,
you had a screen where you have had 4 categories of validation rules, right? So
yeah.
my question was about how logic validation rule differs from like dependency rule. I understand what dependency is, but what is
Yeah, I
logic
know.
validation rule?
I know you do. The way I would say that is that if you have a dependency, you've got to make sure that what the object depends on actually exists and it's functional. So in that sense, you do have a validation rule without getting down into the weeds on things such as format, for example. And in every one of these validation cases, you're talking about SQL being put together in order to isolate error situations. And if you walk that back, the developers who are going to do it need extremely specific instructions that cannot be mistaken. They're unambiguous. And if you don't give them something of high quality, you're going to get garbage back, which will then have to be reviewed and redone and everything.
And those
So
high-level validation can be done in SQL, right?
that's how I would do it. But that's basically because of my background. And I'm comfortable doing it either in Oracle SQL and PostSQL or in SQL Server. That's where I've done most of my technical stuff.
I'm asking because I saw only primitive validations in SQL. I never saw. Excuse me, my daughter decided to chime in. Sorry.
No
Okay.
problem.
What other questions?
Your daughter is free to ask a question.
I'm sure.
No, she has problems with her cartoons. So sorry. I mean, go ahead with other questions.
You know,
You have any other questions?
to briefly answer your question, SQL can be very specific and very simple, like looking for a format, or it can look for multiple conditions, which can become very complex. It depends on what you're looking for, and the rule always is keep it as simple as you possibly can.
Yes.
Thank you.
You like that one,
Yeah.
Cliff?
Oh, boy. You don't know how many times I've been burned by a join or
Oh, God,
just
yeah.
stupid lookups. Oh yeah, no.
Well, the KISS principle, right?
Oh,
Yes,
absolutely.
very much so.
Works.
Or P to the fifth power. Prior
Yeah.
planning prevents poor performance.
Right.
Oh, all right. Yeah,
So-
sometimes it does, assuming the planning is good.
What other questions do we have for Alan?
Alan, what's the most challenging conversion that you've had to oversee going into Oracle, I assume?
That goes back about 20 years, actually, Olga. I applied for a job, I got an interview, and I ended up getting along really well with the project lead. And to my surprise and amazement, I got the job of being technical lead, for which I was totally unprepared at that point in time. I mean, I knew the technical stuff. I'd never run anything close to a project.
Mhm.
I had never had to deal with stakeholders face to face on an ongoing basis, especially uncooperative ones. So,
They're all that way. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
well, on top of that, the version of Oracle that we were trying to implement was so crappy that after 2 months we scrapped the entire thing, went to a new version that they came out with, and started all over again. So yeah, they can be kind of tricky. Now you had Cliff, you had mentioned war stories. One of Thea, do I have a few minutes?
You have 7 minutes. I think that's time for a war story.
Oh, okay. So on this job, most of the employees had been there on the job for about 20 years. And one of them was a retired Marine drill sergeant, right out of the comics. The guy was in his 50s. He had a gray crew cut. He stood up ramrod straight, and he had a voice that sounded like it came from the bottom of a well. So one day he was in charge of one of the legacy systems. So one day he and I sat down. I was going to ask him a whole bunch of requirement questions. And he just kept blithering on and would not let me say a word. Now, at this point, I'm going to say I tailor my reaction to a stakeholder to the audience. If it's a lady who is the treasurer of the company and who happens to be in her 80s, I'm certainly not going to address her the way I would a drill sergeant. So after 10 minutes of this, my frustration got the best of me. We were in a conference room. I picked up a heavy manual. I slammed it down on the table and told him to shut the hell up and let me get a word in edgewise. Now, drill sergeants are not used to this kind of response.
No.
So anyway, his jaw dropped. He couldn't say anything for about a minute, so I managed to get some conversation going. It ended up being pretty productive. I took him out for lunch afterwards, and we actually ended up being friends by the end of the project. But the moral of the story is, when you're dealing with stakeholders, which happens all the time, you've got to be careful about tailoring your response to the audience.
Mm-hmm.
And that's that's a clean war story, Cliff.
Alan, when you and I were talking about this presentation, we were talking about times that not taking care of your data will bite you.
Yeah.
And I conveyed this to you. In the insurance industry, I used to think insurance that doesn't really, I mean, it helps you whenever you need it, but otherwise it doesn't bother you, right? I found out that if we send the wrong data to the state that says this individual does not have current insurance, and they're driving down the road and a policeman runs their plates and says they don't have insurance, they can be arrested and their car impounded, which means that they could lose their job. You know, some jobs, if you're arrested, you lose your job, and not everybody has money to get their car out of
Right.
impound. It will destroy some people's lives. If
Absolutely.
we mess up our data just one little bit, in nuclear power, if we mess up our data, people can die. In hospitals, if you mess up your data, people can die.
Sure.
I mean, so many different industries that you don't realize data will make or break. It will provide food for people or not provide food for people. It provides pay, it provides everything. Everything depends on data. And so taking care of your data is critical.
It does. And not only does the data have to be valid, but the data has to be there. In other words, if you miss importing critical data, you're going to do damage that way too.
Yes, I agree. I agree. We've got time for one more question for Alan. Anybody have a story quickly?
Yeah, I
Well,
had one today.
Okay.
You talk about stakeholders. Something as simple, and this is in the bank industry, a type field. You don't know how many arguments we had. Oh, business has these 10 types, but we went out to their source system and their source system had 14 types. And we're designing screens based on the type. So if you look up a financial account by the type, you want a certain screen because certain fields affect each type. Something as stupid as that turned into 2 weeks of conversations. Please reconcile these types, guys. You know, stupid stuff like that. Working with stakeholders.
I've seen that kind of stuff, and I did a 2.5-year U.S. Air Force contract where we had a lot of problems, and somehow I ended up being a specialist on purchase orders. And the Air Force had the standard Oracle PO, and they had 5 customized POs. So all 5 of those screens differed somewhat. The list of values differed. And when trying to migrate from Oracle 11 to Oracle 12, it was a god-awful mess. It really was. So yeah, I understand.
Well,
And you're
Alan,
talking about truly custom systems. If you're dealing with Oracle backend, I deal more with like a Microsoft Dynamics or a Salesforce, where you got more of a conditional front end, but you are still dealing with the back end. So, but
Yeah,
you're dealing with truly custom stuff if you're building your own tables and relationships and stuff like that.
Well, part of the Air Force problem is that one of the big 4 consulting companies who will remain nameless for the time being created all kinds of custom packages and custom objects such as tables in Oracle 11. Now, this project was taking the Air Force into Oracle 12. Well, the custom stuff didn't work in 12 unless you did some heavy remediation. And that ended up being my goal in life for 2.5 years on that project. So,
Ellen, thank you. Thank you so much. Guys, if you don't understand what developers and data management people have to go through, please consider what Alan has said. It is a much harder job than you ever believe, and it's much more critical for the foundation of every decision made by the organization. Next week, we have Brianna going to talk to us about business architecture. Alan, you've given us so much good stuff to think about. Next week, y'all join us for Brianna's business architecture talk. And again, Alan, thank you so much. We will see y'all next time.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Alan. It was
guys.
awesome.
Bye.
it's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.